Building a bridge. Building a bridge for tomorrow. And then there's a song that this old rock and roller used to sing and listen to, Can't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. The last time I spoke at the Bridge of Hope was at your dedication of your current facilities. The title of that sermon was also about a bridge, and then they built a bridge. I'm going to put this up here. I'm not much of a walker. If I do, I'll take it out so y'all can follow me around with the microphone and the camera. So anyway, and then they built a bridge. I told you about Vonnie's grandfather who worked with a logging crew on Hilton Head Island in the 1950s. Well, today I'm going to go a little bit more in detail. Hilton Head's population in the 1950s was only 300 residents, and the island had no electricity. A group of lumber associates from Georgia purchased 20,000 acres on the island for less than $60 per acre. And then they began logging 19,000 of their 20,000 acres. Well, Vonnie's grandmother and grandfather lived over in Ridgeland, South Carolina, which is on the mainland about 30 miles from Hilton Head. Of course, you couldn't get to Hilton Head by traveling. You had to take a ferry to get to Hilton Head. They lived in Ridgeland, a small town in the lowlands of South Carolina. Vonnie's grandfather would take a state-operated ferry to Hilton Head Island to work with the logging company. And he would come home at night and say, Florence, those crazy people over there on that isolated island are giving $60 an acre. Can you believe that? And then they built a bridge. The first bridge was built in 1956. It was just a small two-lane swing bridge that would swing around once it got loaded and let the cars off, swing back around, or, when it got loaded again and let the cars off. Beachfront, well, it was just a two-lane swing bridge, but 48,000 cars traveled that small bridge in its very first year of operation to get to the island. The island's first supermarket also opened in 1956, and the residents then didn't have to take a ferry to get to the mainland to go to Savannah to buy their needs. And then beachfront property in 1956 sold for $5,350, and by 1962 they were selling the beach property for $9,600. William Hilton opened up the William Hilton Inn in 1958 with 56 small rooms, building a bridge. And you see what happens? When you build a bridge, the economy grows. When you build a bridge, people's needs are met, and their basic supplies of life then are met, all because of a small swing bridge that was built. By the 1990s, the little William Hilton Inn was demolished, and they built the Grand Marriott Resort, building a bridge. 1982 brought the opening of a 4-lane bridge, and the island's full-time population totaled by this time 12,500 residents from 300 in the 50s. Now, here we are with over 12,000 full-time residents and over 500,000 visitors a year. 1995 saw the construction of the Cross Island Parkway, and the permanent year-round population of what was once an isolated island now exceeded 28,000 people, with over 1.5 million visitors a year. All because they built a bridge. They built a bridge. Cost of the medium family home with just a lot today from $60 an acre to the cost of a medium family home today on a small lot is over $1.25 million. And a medium-sized condo would cost you over $500,000. All because, can you say it with me? All because they built a bridge. Building a bridge. Wow. Bridge of Hope, it's a great time to be an active participant at the Bridge of Hope. It's a great time. It's a great opportunity for you to be here and to bring your family and to let others know about the hope that this church is reaching out with. You're building a bridge of hope to a hopeless world all around us, building a bridge to isolated islands of hopelessness all around us, expanding the two-lane bridge that you started with over at Opal Drive back in the 1960s, and now you're building a super highway of hope to a hopeless world all around you, all because someone had a vision and you're building a bridge to hopelessness. Reluctantly, and I say reluctantly, most mornings when I come into our living area, I click on the news. I say some mornings because Vonnie most mornings already has the news on. And I say, well, reluctantly, because what's going to go on the news? And I ask her, well, what are they fussing about today? You know the feeling when you turn on the news and there's always something going on that doesn't appeal to our senses, or it sounds real good. As the old newspaper adage says, if it bleeds, it reads. If it's bad, then we want to listen to it. And that's the headlines. And here the headlines go. Recorded lows expected this week. Boy, I'm looking forward to that. Aren't you? Breaking out with the heavy jackets. Yeah, for recorded lows. And the government shutdown reaches a new record of days. And boy, I'm telling you what, and we've already talked about, some people are really suffering now. And socialism reaches New York City. The Dow plunges in the morning and the Dow rises in the afternoon. Wow. And as Sonny and Sherry used to sing, and the beat goes on. And the beat goes on. Well, I want to ask you, will the bridge build a bridge of hope to our desperate world? Will you continue to build the bridge of hope to our desperate world? Some years ago, Newsweek magazine reported a fortune tellers convention in Dublin, Ireland. And palm readers and crystal ball gazers and astrologers from all over the world gathered for a week to compare their notes and to learn new soothsaying techniques and to make new predictions. And while they were all gathered together in one of the ballrooms of the hotel, a thief broke into all of their rooms and stole all of their crystal balls and all of their tarot cards. And you know, you can probably make up the story for the rest of yourself. When the inspectors and the detectives comes in, their first question was since you know the future, why didn't you prepare and bring your crystal balls and all with you? Because you knew this was going to happen. Well, folks, while some people run to prophets and others run to prophecies about the future, let me remind us that no one can predict the future. Certainly, we think about tomorrow, and certainly we consider the new beginnings that tomorrow will bring to the bridge. But let us not forget that the Bible declares, first of all, we are people of God, which means that we are the people of the good news of the gospel that we reach out to others and we give hope to. That simply means we are people, God's people of good news. We are people of faith for tomorrow. We are not people of fear concerning our tomorrows and the uncertainties that's going to be coming to the Bridge of Hope. We gather each week to worship and to remind ourselves that God's tomorrows are worth thinking about. Listen to the ultimate tomorrow that God tells us about in Revelation 21, 1 through 5. And this is just the beginning of our good news that we portray to the world around us. And the prophet, the revelator, saw this. He says, "Then I saw a new heaven, and I saw a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw a holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven." Now this is our tomorrows, folks. This is our eternity. For tomorrow, a new heaven coming down that God had prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals." Who is that? That's us. See, the home of God is among mortals just like us, and he will dwell with them, and they will be his peoples, and God himself will be with them. And he'll wipe away all tear, every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more, and mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. You want to know what tomorrow brings? You want to know what our future is? Then the Revelator tells us in the back of the book, and this is what our ultimate future and for our ultimate tomorrow is. And the one who was seated on the throne said to the Revelator, "See, I am making all things new." Wow. And then he told the Revelator, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." You want to know about tomorrow? Yeah, you want to run to a prophet or about prophecies? I want to run to the book, and I want to see what the main man has to say about my tomorrow, of what I can look forward to. This is our eternal future. And I really like the words of Jesus in Matthew 6 chapter. He says, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." And then he says, "Each day has enough trouble of its own." Friends, let me tell you something. Faith and fear have two things in common. You have to believe in something that you do not see. You have to believe in something that you cannot look out and grab a hold of and see. Faith or fear. As a pastor, I often reminded my sheep of Jeremiah 29 and 11. And the prophet says, "For I know the plans I have for you." This is God speaking. "I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you." Plans to give you a hope. Bridge of Hope. Plans to give you hope and a future. And then 2 Timothy 1 and 7 instructs us, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." You see, fear paralyzes us, and we cannot continue with the construction of the bridge to the hopeless that's out there. Fear paralyzes us, while faith in God's sovereignty empowers us to trust him and to trust our future to him. I encourage the bridge to focus on today's opportunities rather than tomorrow's uncertainties. Thankful for the glorious past of where God has brought you from, has brought us from. Thankful for the glorious past. But you see, focus on today's opportunities that God brings to the bridge instead of tomorrow's uncertainties. God's sovereignty holds tomorrow so that we can live in peace for today. The wise man of Proverbs writes in the 3rd chapter, he says, "Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." And then I really like, we're going to jump over to the New Testament, and the first general overseer of the Church of God, what we call him, James, he writes in the 4th chapter, 13 through 15, and he instructs us. He says, "Now listen, you who say tomorrow or today or tomorrow we will go to this city and spend a year there and carry on business and make money. He says, why, you don't even know what will happen tomorrow. That's what the preacher's saying to us. He says, what is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say this: if it is the Lord's will, we will live and we will do this. I know humanity has a natural desire. My desire, your desire. We all have this desire to plan for the future. We say it's a wise man that will plan for the future. And financial peace to say, what is your financial plan for the next 5 years? You go ahead and you plan it out. And I'm certain that the Bridge of Hope leadership has been planning to receive your new pastor and their family, and you're dreaming about that, and you're looking forward to it. There's going to be new leadership. There's going to be new, fresh opportunities. It's going to come to you, and you're ready to receive, and you're ready to move on from maybe the uncertainty of this time. And I'm sure most of the Bridge family has been singing with Fleetwood Mac from the 1970s, Don't Stop. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop. It'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone. Plenty of scriptures we could talk about of forgetting the past and moving on to the future. Yeah. However, as we think about and plan for the bridge that the bridge is building, let's consider the biblical perspective concerning tomorrow. First of all, we understand that tomorrow, we acknowledge that tomorrow is uncertain. But at the very same time, with the very same breath, we speak from our knower, and it comes out through our lips that God is not uncertain. While tomorrow is uncertain, the God that we trust in is not uncertain. Proverbs 27:1 says, do not boast about tomorrow, for you don't know what tomorrow may bring. And as We the Kingdom sings, you can tell I like music, but as We the Kingdom sings Miracle Power, they say in that song, I may not know what the day may bring, but I know who brings the day. Wow. Yeah, trusting. Our trust is certain in the one that we know holds tomorrow in his strong hand. Don't you think it's wise for us to trust in the one who holds the future in his hand, because he's already there in the future that we are looking forward to and that we may be even planning for? Yeah, instead of trying to predict, instead of trying to dream, instead of trying to control our future, well, maybe not you, but some folks in some churches, they get ready to plan to control the new pastor when he comes in. You know, they've already got their plans and their schemes made out for the power struggle that goes on. Yeah. Instead of trying to predict or control the future, trust the one who holds the future. Second, God invites us to live by faith and not by worry. Jesus teaches us in the Sermon on the Mount that I've already quoted from Matthew 6. He says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has worries of its own, and it will worry for itself. You see, and then he ends it this way. Jesus, on the Sermon on the Mount, each day has enough trouble of its own. What good advice. Have you ever heard that advice? Don't add to tomorrow's trouble by your worry. And Jesus has already addressed that for us. Don't worry about tomorrow. It's got enough troubles of its own. Jesus instructs us to focus on today and to trust in God to provide for our tomorrow. Trust in him today. Trust him to provide for tomorrow. You see, anxiety about the future robs us of our peace in the present. Anxiety about tomorrow robs us of our peace. Third, let us live in the light of eternity. That's the scripture we've already referred to, that That's the message of hope that we bring, ultimate. Yeah, we all know that we go through troubles and trials here. There's going to be troubles and trials. That's the part of humanity. Just because we are following after Christ doesn't mean we don't have any troubles and trials, but we trust in God because we know our future. We understand what eternity brings to us. But Paul writes to us in 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, verses 17 and 18, he says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory." Wow, it's the light and the momentary things that we go through that we get all tore up about, that we get all frustrated about. Why am I going through this now? And Paul says that those things, the eternity that God has prepared for us, far outweighs the light and the momentary problems and conflicts that we have right now. So he says, then we do not fix our eyes on what is seen. We don't fix our eyes on what we feel even right now. No, we fix our eyes on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary. It's just here. It's temporary. It's light in temporary afflictions. But what is unseen, that's the revelation part. That's the part that the bridge portrays to people without hope. We trust in God to take us through today because our tomorrows, where God dwells with mortals, where we dwell with God, what an eternity that we will all face. So we seek God's divine will with an eternal perspective. God's divine will causes us to invest in things that have lasting value instead of the temporary things here that we invest in, our time, our talents, our finances. And so looking to God's will, then we understand that we invest in the future that has an eternal value. And fourth, trust in God's plan for tomorrow. Trust in God's plan. Proverbs 16 and 9 tells us, in their human hearts, they plan their own course, but the will of God, but the Lord establishes their steps. The human heart, we plan our own steps. We plan our own course. We plan our own path. But the wise man said here, but the Lord establishes their steps. So even while we're planning, even while we're walking, even while we're trying to move forward, he says, trust in the Lord. But he's the one that's establishing your steps. Thinking and planning for tomorrow, certainly it can be a wise thing. However, some of us are serial planners. Now you think about that for a moment. We plan our tomorrow to death. We're serial planners, dangerous planners. We plan our tomorrows out until instead of life, we're so bowed down and weighed down with our own planning and our own scheming until we're actually dying instead of living. So I say hold your plans loosely and trust God to guide when he redirects our plans that we have made. Proverbs 16 and 3 says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he then will establish your plans. Well, isn't that contradictory? No, because we trust the Lord with all of our heart, our soul, mind, and strength, first of all. And so we commit our plans that we hold loosely in our hands. And then when he directs our plans, he establishes his plans. Wow. And fifth, as we think about and plan for our tomorrows, let us encourage one another and encourage others as we journey together. Hebrews 10 and 24 encourages us with these words, consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. So as you live, as you plan, as we move forward together, welcoming others together, he says these good words, consider how we may spur one another on to love and good deeds. The book of Acts tells us that the early church thrived because they encouraged and supported each other during difficult times. When others were having problems, Paul came around collecting missionary money to take to and send to. They encouraged one another as they came around. Yeah, so let the bridge be a source of hope. Let the bridge be a source of encouragement, not only to one another, but to all of those around us. Share your testimonies of hope. Share your testimonies of good news. Share your love of Christ to one another, to everyone we meet. Pray for divine opportunities to come to us, that God will open a door that we're able to share the goodness of God. Tell him all my life he's been faithful, even in times of diagnosis that I didn't want, even in times when it was tough. God's still been faithful, and he'll be faithful to you too. Tell him. Share with him. Wow. One young man says, I can't wait for tomorrow. And the aged man says, is it already tomorrow? Young man says, I can't wait for tomorrow to get here. I'll get my driver's license, get to graduate, and get married and have a family. Can't wait for tomorrow. And the old man says, you mean tomorrow is already here? Yeah. Truth is, yesterday's gone, and tomorrow will soon be here. So as we prepare ourselves to leave today, I encourage you to ask yourselves, how can I trust God more concerning my tomorrow? What steps will I take to prepare myself, my church, for tomorrow? How can I grow in faith as we as a body move together into tomorrow? You see, as his church, we yield ourselves to his guidance and to his leadership. As God opens new doors, and he will, opens new doors of opportunity for ministry, for you to become involved in, for the church to become in me. I'm not a speaker. I don't like to get up. As I'm telling you, as God opens new doors of new opportunities for you to become involved in the ministry of this church, then right now we begin to yield our perceived notions of what that will look like. We already begin to give our notions of what it will be and how he will use me and what area I'm supposed to be in. We already submit ourselves to what God has in store for us and our preconceived notions to his divine, perfect will. Give it to God. Give it to God as he opens the door for you. Go ahead and dream. Go ahead and think about it. Go ahead and say, yeah, I think I do good here. Go ahead with those things. But yield your preconceived notions to the divine will of God. As we think about tomorrow, we acknowledge that tomorrow may not turn out exactly as we had hoped for. May not turn out exactly as we had planned. But then we go back to the beginning of God's divine plan for our eternal destiny. Wow. And we understand that tomorrow will be better than today. So the last verse of Don't Stop says, if you wake up and you don't want to smile, or if it just takes a little while, open your eyes and look at the day, and you'll see things in a different way. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop. It'll soon be here, and it'll be better than before. For yesterday's gone, and yesterday's gone. So don't you look back. Don't you look back. Let's move forward today. I'm going to play a song for you, a video, and if during this time you want to come and pray, I want to invite you to come and pray. The praise team is coming back. They're going to sing a song after this. But if you want to come down to what we call an altar, commit, recommit, start to dream again. Maybe during the transitions of COVID and transitions that have happened recently, an interim pastor, and then a Pastor Adderley coming from Florida of all places. Yeah. What's going to happen? What's it going to be? Maybe you stop dreaming. Maybe you stop thinking about tomorrow. It'll soon be here. Yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone. Don't look back. Move forward. Yeah, trust the